Danny Batth is another former Blackburn Rovers defender who is set to potentially join Derby County. Now, Football League World have released an exclusive with Neil Moxley, reporting that both Andy Weimann and Danny Batth are potentially in the hunt for moves to Derby County. Now, I believe both players have been offered contract extensions at Blackburn Rovers, but with former Blackburn Rovers boss John Eustace now at Derby County, it opens up the door for this discussion to be had. And I personally do believe that both players would add something to Derby County. But we spoke about Andreas Weimann in a video yesterday, so let's talk a little bit more about Danny Batth. Now, Danny Batth is a 34-year-old defender, English defender, whose contract does expire at the end of this season with Blackburn Rovers. Is currently valued at £250,000 by Transfer Market. And as we look at his season as a whole, he made 41 appearances across the course of the Championship, FA Cup and EFL Cup, and he played 3,347 minutes, all of them within the position of centre-half. Now, obviously, he's had quite a decent career and is a player who, in my opinion, could add to Derby County's depth chart. Now, if we look at some of the clubs he's played at, you look at Norwich City, you look at Wolverhampton Wanderers, you look at Sunderland, Sheffield Wednesday, Stoke City, and obviously more recently Blackburn Rovers. And if we look at that sort of career in a whole, it's 547 games, 30 goals, 7 assists, 89 yellows, 1 red card, 46,265 minutes. And in my opinion, he is a very, very experienced player who could add a lot to Derby County's defensive unit. Now, he's made 353 appearances in the Championship with 20 goals and 3 assists. And for me, is a player who, if Derby County are looking at, I completely understand it. Both Curtis Nelson and Sondre Langas are both set to miss out on the first month or so of the Championship campaign, which means that Derby County need to bring in cover in that defensive area. Now, Craig Forsyth has been offered a contract extension, but as of the time of recording, we do not have confirmation as to whether that has been accepted by Forsyth or not, and that obviously then opens up the door to more defensive reinforcements which Derby County need. And I think that Danny Batth fits into that situation, because at the moment, if you look at Derby County's back four, you're starting next season with a back four of potentially Kane Wilson, Jake Rooney, Matt Clark and Callum Elder in the back four, with obviously no other defensive reinforcements. And that is why I think that this move for Danny Batth is one which makes complete sense. It will cover off any potential injuries with the Curtis Nelson circumstance, and obviously with the circumstance regarding Sondre Langas. It means that Jake Rooney could potentially head out on loan. It means that we don't have to rush back Ryan Niambi to play in a centre-half position either. And in my opinion, I think that this move, it's not obviously it's not a long-term move with him being 34 years old, but it is a move which sort of looks to this season and go, here's a consistent Championship performer. You know what you're going to get from him. John Eustace has worked for him before, and it could work. And in my opinion, it could be a very good move for Derby County. Now, I know a lot of people are sort of disappointed in regards to both the links of Andy Weimann and Danny Batth, but for me, I don't necessarily believe they're bad moves. Now, what you've got to do when you're looking at what John Eustace is trying to do, especially early on in this window, is trying to bring in players that he knows can do the job in the Championship before we go and bring in those marquee signings of a £2 million number 9, a £1.5 million winger, for example. Now, I'm not saying that's what we're going to do, but you look at some of the players we've been linked to that are sort of like the more higher key marquee signings, the likes of Oscar Frullo, those sorts of players, they don't come cheap, and those deals are going to take longer to get done. And in my opinion, early doors, if we bring in 2 or 3 30-plus-year-old players that are experienced in the Championship and can play games, then I think it's the right move for Derby. And I think Weimann and Danny Batth both suit that circumstance. Now, am I saying that they're going to go and play 40-odd games for Derby County next season? No, not at all. But do I think that they could be brilliant depth options and improve the squad right now that we have? Absolutely. If we was to play a game tomorrow, Andy Weimann would start for Derby County and Danny Batth would start for Derby County. Obviously, given the injury situation, if you take away injuries, Danny Batth will be a backup option to Sondre Langas and Matt Clark, obviously depending on if we play a back 3 or a back 4. But you've got to make sure that you have those options that you can trust and rely upon heading into next season. Now, it does sort of feel as if John Eustace is sort of looking to potentially have Jake Rooney move, maybe potentially on a loan move, or sort of be that backup option, maybe even a midfield option heading into next season. And we're sort of going to have to wait and see how that plays out, because with Danny Batth coming in, that then pushes Jake Rooney further down the queue in a range of in obviously the centre-back position. In the right-back position, there's already 3 options ahead of him. In the midfield, there's obviously only Ibrahim Adams in that sitting midfield role, but we don't know where Jake Rooney is seen by John Eustace, and that's why this Danny Batth deal is a very, very interesting one. Now, do I think he should join Derby County? Now, I would obviously prefer to sign a 25-year-old centre-half that's going to be fit and available 4 to 6 games of the season, and is going to go on, and then we end up selling him for 15, 20 million in 2 or 3 seasons. Now, that probably won't happen. Derby County's budget situation is one of interest and one of good topic of discussion, because we know that Stephen Pearce has made it clear that the £6 million left from the sale of Erin Cashin is in the pot for Derby County. Now, the important thing for Derby County is that they don't splurge that on one player or splurge it on 2 players. We've got to make sure that that spreads around the squad and does increase the quality within the building, and I think that's absolutely what John Eustace and the team will do behind the scenes when you're looking at sort of recruitment options, and that's obviously something that we have to assess as the season goes on. Now, the signing of Danny Batth and Andy Weimann on a free, you'd hope wouldn't touch or input that pot of £6 million. Now, obviously, yes, there's wage budgets and things to counteract, but I don't believe that would be included in that £6 million budget that Stephen Pearce was referring to in the interview with Dom Dietrich. Now, obviously, you lot can have your say and your opinions. You can let me know that down in the comments. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. But I do believe that this signing of Danny Batth would be a smart and sensible one, given the depth options that Derby County have as we sit here today. Now, am I saying that there isn't better options out there that could potentially be at Derby County for 2 or 3 years? I'm not saying that at all, because I don't really know sort of the circumstances in which Derby County are recruiting. Obviously, there is a lot of players out there in the world and in professional football, and Derby County have to make the right moves. And sometimes you've got to make a move regarding what you know rather than what could happen. And that's what Derby County need next season, in my opinion. It's to know that the players that they put in the squad are going to be able to perform at championship level and going to be able to perform to a level that can keep us in the division. And ultimately, if we go and spend £2.5 million on a centre-half from Spain or Holland or even Norway, we don't know if they can compete at the level. Yes, Sondre Langas was very good. Lars Jørgen Salverson showed glimpses of what he can do. Kenzo Heldmine showed glimpses. Jakob Vidal Zetterstrom had a decent season, but you can't rely on that to happen every single time. You're going to have hits, you're going to have misses, and in my opinion, when you've got a 34-year-old experienced pro sitting on the sidelines that could potentially join your club, I think it's a bit of a no-brainer to make that decision as a depth option rather than as a marquee player, in my opinion. But you can obviously let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, you turn on that notification bell, and stay tuned for all of my latest Derby County content heading your way. News, transfers, reviews, everything that you want will be coming your way across the course of this off season and then heading into the new season. So if you have not done so already, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, hit the like button, let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll catch you in the next one.